Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing a Red Arcueid starter guide to give you all the fundamentals you'll need to turn her into the true terror that she can be. Now Red Arcueid falls into a couple different archetypes, but I would primarily call her a space control character and also a mix-up character. Going over space control first, she has some very strong normals for this. Now her down C is a very good disjoint, and despite being a sweep in nature, actually hits pretty high, so it's very useful in combos that we'll go into later. In the air, however, your B is definitely your best space control, as it's a 2-hit swing that covers very well in front of her and can cover you from rising to falling on short dashes. Now with those two buttons getting a good little shout out, the true space control comes from these projectile discs she throws. On the ground, she has her 4 versions, with A, B, and C each giving 1, 2, or 3 projectiles, and her moon version doing a much faster 1 projectile. That's very good for catching your opponent if you think they're going to throw out their own move or if they're trying to activate something. In the air, however, is where these moves truly shine. When starting out for effective zoning, her B is very strong because it can halt your air momentum, and you can choose to either throw 1 out or you can press it again to throw a second. This is good for keeping in the corner, tossing them out with very little opportunity to be punished. Her A1 is one that will not change her momentum, however, so you can throw this easily back with a retreat, or what's really strong is dashing in with it on your opponent's wake up and throwing it out, as it can cover your landing and you can combo if it hits. This is also very strong in her wake up game that we'll talk about in mix-ups. Her moon version is kind of a mix of both, where it will not change your air momentum but will throw out 2 projectiles, so this is really strong for confirming those combos or retreating with 2 moves. Very good at punishing an opponent that's waking up with a DP or activating their heat state. Finally, her C1 is just a very strong single projectile that goes, but it will fall more into the mix-ups and combo category that we're going to get to. But there are 2 normals that blend the space control and mix-up thing that I want to wait till now. Her standing C is a good disjoint in front of her, but the real interesting property of it is that you can hold this down to charge it, giving it more hits, but also giving you armor. Now keep in mind, moves with armor, you will still take damage and it doesn't count as chip, so this, you will die. It's not invincibility. Don't get that twisted. However, it will let you tank an incredible amount of hits, pretty much anything but an EX move or a super, or a grab. Be careful of that. Standing C is also not her only armor move, as her standing punch is as well, and this one's amazing because it turns the hit into an overhead. Very strong at opening a scared opponent or someone who's mashing as well. Now all of this wouldn't be too scary for the opponent if you didn't have strong mix-ups and reversals in your arsenal, which luckily Arcueid has both. As far as mix-ups go, there's one thing that will be really apparent when you check her command list, which is if you do her forward, down, diagonal dashes and hold those down, you will do this kind of flip, which is just honestly the reason I picked her, because it's really cool and is a really good way to, you know, check either overhead or you don't hold it down and you stay on the ground and you do a low. Now keep in mind, these will dash through your opponent. The short one obviously looks a lot less like it will, but if you are right next to someone, you still can. And the B one is much more likely. However, if you're too far away, you still won't do it. So, you know, you'll see what happens. The moon variant is just a really fast dash with no hold option, but can be very good at throwing out and going through someone. However, keep in mind, you can be grabbed as you're running through, so it is not an invincible. If you do want an invincible one, however, her C version, the EX that costs 1 bar, will be invincible as a reversal, is a hit grab that you can convert off of, and if it doesn't hit the person but you're close to them, you still will dash through the opponent. However, you will still be next to the opponent, so it's not really that ideal, but at least, hey, you're getting out of the corner if that's where you were. As far as invincible reversals go, she also does have one that is her quarter circle forward EX move. Now this is kind of like a standard DP, which doesn't have a normal follow-up. However, if you do activate your moon drive, you can follow up in the air, so you know that's kind of cool. So with all these tools that we've gone over, when you're starting out with Red Arcueid, it's really good to know when you can keep your space and throw out your projectile moves, and then also find these right moments to dash in. Now the dash is much more of a thing that you'll get on certain wake up option, and as far as wake up options go, one of the strongest ones is landing that quarter circle back projectile move, that EX projectile in the air. That is really good because it forces the opponent to stay knocked down for a while and then gives you essentially a free teleport mix on them. Arcueid's forward C is also a very strong move in the sense that it can cross people up and go through them, so another kind of dash, and because it's just a command normal, you can then cancel this into any of your special moves. So whether it's one of these teleport dashes, or if you land the hit, you can turn it into some combos. So let's give you some combos to go over. Now there are some very cool crazy things. This is definitely the not definitive end all be all things for combos, but this should give you some strong ideas about where you can explore using the tools that we've talked about and a couple other buttons that we'll highlight. So starting off, once you get the hit, one of the standard B&Bs to go into is doing your down down C into your standing C and then forward C. This is very strong. It will cause you to usually cross up your opponent, and then you can go into a quarter circle towards them A, which is this nice little hit, go into a crouching C, and then a quarter circle forward B. Now, where this differs from the A one is that it does have a longer startup, so it is harder to hit in some combos. However, it's jump cancelable, so this will then allow you to go into some jumping follow-ups, like her charged C in the air, which is a very strong hit, and then of course the standard air grab. There's also the option to stay facing the same side you started the combo, where instead of doing a standing C, you can do a second crouching C, and this has a follow-up that is like a shove, like a gut punch, and then you do a forward C and it'll keep you same side. It's also, and this is really important, never too bad to go into her rapid beat combo after you do some of these bread and butter starts, because it will set you really easily up for a very strong mix off of combo option. Now, if you follow all the mission modes, it'll keep telling you to do BC air throw. You know, that's the standard thing. However, after a launcher, it's really strong for Red Arcueid to, instead of doing BC air throw, just do BC air throw and save your air action. Because after you slam them to the ground, if you've kept your air option, you can leap up and prep one of those A projectiles that we talked about earlier. You also have the option to jump over them, and then if they're trying to shield because they think you're going to do one of those, backdash over them, and now you've really mixed them up. This is a really easy thing to start and pick up, and will help you build that foundational game for her. It'll also prep you for situational awareness for starting to realize, oh, I want to save this air action not for this little bit of damage, but instead to prep the next instance. Or if you do get to the point where you're just trying to kill them, then you do BC, and if you have the option, throw at that EX projectile, because despite it doing the mix-up we talked about earlier, it also does a ton of damage for ending, and can be converted into your super if you have those 4 bars. Now, don't be afraid to start combos with those armored moves, especially the overhead B. It's very strong. You also have the option, if you start a combo with your back to the corner, to go into that EX grab. It'll toss them against the wall, and then you can pick up the combo from there. From a normal grab, it's possible to pick it off a crouching B or a crouching C, and then you can kind of just go into all those standard B and B stuffs as well. Now, this is easily enough to start. There are a couple interactions I've found that I'm not sure how to turn them into bigger things, but are definitely good to know, and maybe, you know, can inspire you in your own way. Now, Arcueid in the air has this down C, which has armor, and usually it immediately lets the opponent tech out. So it's kind of just that last ditch Hail Mary damage thing that you do at the end. However, it does seem to allow on some early hits, whether it's after your charged C in some cases, or an early jump cancel on your quarter circle forward B, it will allow you to then bring them to the ground and continue the combo. However, I haven't found a good way to do it consistently that will make more damage than these other things, but you know, it's another thing to look at. Speaking of jump canceling, while I talked about it mainly for zoning, it is possible to use these double projectiles in the corner to get a combo, but I only really can figure out to go into the B&B after that, not gonna lie. Finally, air dash canceling is very strong, and there are some opportunities to do it. So yeah, this can help be some cool pickups, and you know, maybe in the corner can be something crazy. But yet another thing of, don't forget that air dashing does exist, just because it is so strong to save your air option for that mix-up game. You also have that as a thing to explore. So I hope that this was really helpful with you finding out some new info for Red Arcueid. I mean, the game hasn't even been out a week yet, so there's definitely a lot more to discover, but this has pointed me in the right direction. Just applying these little things, I went from being just rock all the time to like going on massive win streaks and tears. So it is definitely the best info I give you to start, and look forward to getting some more and other characters as we dive into them. Till next time, peace.